Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. It's part two of the 4-day championship preview series. Yesterday we kicked off with Akeal joining us, looking at the defending champions, the Barbados Pride. And actually, many people probably don't remember, because when that season got curtailed in 2020 as a result of the COVID pandemic, it was the Red Force who were actually in second place. Probably a lot of people would have forgotten that. I believe it was under the much maligned Darren Bravo's captaincy as well. But the Red Force were in second place at the time. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And you can see on the screen as you're watching who's with us today. But first things first, let me head straight over to my partner in crime.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say you fans are lucky we've managed to maintain consistency with a part two, because it was looking like we might have done part one and disappeared. But we're back looking at Trinidad and Tobago Red Force, and there was only one guy we could get on. Dino, regular fans will know him. Dino, follow him at Quick Dino. But we're gonna explore the Red Force team. But firstly, Dino, how are you doing?
All is well, guys. Thanks for having me as usual, man. I'm really excited for 4-day cricket to come back. I gotta be honest. It's been a long time, and before the big T20 thing, even me as a youngster coming up, 4-day was the ideal at that point. A lot of guys just look forward to making the 4-day squad as a youngster, and now all that nostalgic feels is back. We haven't been around for a while with red ball cricket, so here we are. Good to be here.
Indeed, and Dino, as I said at the top, and in fact, actually, Santoki, you shared on the socials today, and I couldn't even believe it myself. But what was it, Santoki? The Trinidad and Tobago Red Force have only won one 4-day championship in 20 years, which is, we know about their white ball prowess, whether as the Night Riders in CPL or when it's Super 50. But are you surprised by that, Santoki? One championship in 20 years.
Yeah, I am, because if you think about the caliber of players they've had, whether it be a Lendl, Simmons in that period, they would have had Brian Lara occasionally. They brought in obviously Darren Bravo. It is surprising. You always think of Trinidad as a big traditional cricketing nation in the Caribbean. So yeah, it's surprising. Dino, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts. Sort of is it just a case, as Mashal said, they sort of prioritized T20 cricket in Trinidad for the last 10, 15 years? Or is there something wider with kind of the lack of success in red ball cricket?
Yeah, man. I mean, the first thing I would say is that the tournament was dominated by Jamaica and Guyana, right, in recent history, right? So nobody else really had a good look in. And to be honest, being part of the setup, batting was a concern for the most recent, let's say, 5 to 10 years. It's in Trinidad in particular, the batting was a major concern. Where were the runs going to come from? They were always churning up proper bowlers and continue to do so. And in the last couple of years before the break in the 4-day, we saw a bit of an increase, and guys like Josh Silver came through, and we saw an increase in the runs and a clear positive step forward in that direction. But over that period, I would say really it was the batting that let us down. The talent was definitely there, and definitely the quality around the region was a lot better.
Indeed, and I think you mentioned we haven't previewed Jamaica or Guyana yet. They're coming, but of course, Santoki, when you look at Jamaica took 4, I think Guyana took 4. That's 8 in the last, effectively 8 in the last 12 or so have gone to Jamaica or Guyana, usually led by Nikita Miller and Vasami Permo, just dominating at the regional level, but. Let's bring up the team, because not everybody. This Red Force team is quite interesting. So let's read the names out first things first. And in fact, even before I go there, tell a lie. It's worth reminding everyone that in these first 2 rounds in February, the games are played in Trinidad or Barbados, and we're going to get into whether that means there's a home field advantage for Trinidad, etc., etc. later on in the show. But the team: Imran Khan, captain; Josh Da Silva, vice captain; Jeremy Solozano, Keegan Simmons, Yannick Correa, Jason Mohammed, Jaid Gooley, Kari Pierre, Jaden Seals, Anderson Phillip, Shannon Gabriel, Brian Charles, Isaiah Raja. I might have said the surname wrong there, so Dino will correct me. Chris, is it Christian or is it Christian?
It's Kirsten, right?
It's Kirsten.
Yeah.
Kirsten Kalicharan, and Terence Hines. Now, if you're a Trini, loads of those names should be familiar. But we are taking this, and everyone who's watching this, to not just be interested from a Trinidad and Tobago perspective. There'll be plenty of people. We've already seen how many views there've been for the Barbados one. So there'll be plenty of people watching this who'll be like, who are some of these names? And Santoki, I'm going to come to you first, even before we go to Dino as the expert. I look at that Trinidad side, and what I think when I first see that is, first things first, bowling lineup, fire. Fire in that bowling lineup. 2 West Indian internationals. Anderson Phillip is kind of on the white ball cusp of the team. Kari Pierre has played for the West Indies as well. Even Jason Mohammed with his dibbly-dobbly off spins is a problem in the regional context. Imran Khan never got a West Indies cap, but just bowls man out on a regular basis. So that I didn't even mention Brian Charles. So I already look at the bowling. I'm like, this Trinidad team is a big problem in the bowling. But that's not what I want to ask you about, Santoki. When I look at this Trinidad team, I see a lot of promising youngsters who we've heard names about. We've heard them over the years. Gooley, Simmons, Kalicharan, for example. And it seems like they've been around for a while, Santoki, but just not actually made the jump up or step up even.
Yeah, 100%. I think, firstly, as you alluded to, Mash, I think this squad, they've sort of hit the sweet spot in that they've got promising players, but they've sort of got a veteran in every department to sort of guide them. So you look at Anderson Phillip and Jaden Seals, they have Shannon Gabriel around. Obviously, Jason Mohammed, that experience to kind of guide the batting. And Imran Khan, sort of guiding Kari Pierre and Brian Charles as well. So they've got a good balance of experience and youngsters. But as you said, the likes of Jaid Gooley points to a wider issue. Under 19 player, showed a lot of promise. Hasn't really kicked on since then. I'm not sure how old he is. He's in his mid-20s, I think, at this point. And as well, as you said, Khaled Chivan, these are guys who, they're not necessarily youngsters in terms of their age, but in terms of their inexperience, they are. So it'll be interesting to see whether at this point in their career, whether they are able to suddenly jump up to make the first class runs, having not played cricket for 2 years at a professional level. And interesting to see if they can develop into West Indian players. But on the whole, this looks like a very, very promising Trinidadian squad. And Dino, it'd be interesting to get, firstly, your overall thoughts on the team and also about what me and Mashal are saying about the promising players coming through.
Yeah, man. I will go straight into what you said about the promising guys, because you see the names there, the Jaid Gooley, the Kalicharan, even Isaiah Raja, Charles falls into that category, Simmons into that category of the promising guys, of the youngsters coming through. All of those guys have been part of the youth system. They've gotten a little bit of look-ins here and there, but the truth is now you expect them to be the ones to come through the system now. They've had, oh my God, that was a ringtone there? Okay.
Listen, that was one of the players.
Who's out of touch? I gotta see that one. But look, these guys had their chances before. They've had look-ins. They've been around the setup. Now that they've had this little break, I think what I've seen from all of the trial games is everybody got runs. Everybody got 50s. Now the competition may not have been the best, but everyone got 50s. Some not many hundreds, but the runs were ticking over. I think this is the time for these guys. I'll go into it overall now. I think those youngsters fit in to the established guys of this team almost perfectly. It's a very good combination of youth and experience. And I think that this is the coming of age time for these guys. This is their opportunity. Maybe there were some other names that could have been there, but these were the names people were looking at for a long time. And these guys have put their hand up in the opportunities they had leading up to the squad selection.
So Mashal sort of mentioned names that a lot of people will know, and then names that not necessarily people outside of Trinidad might be familiar with. So if you had to pick one player from this side, kind of making their name in this squad, to stand out in the upcoming season, who would you point out? Who would you highlight?
Wow, just to pick one player would be difficult. I think that overall, I think Yannick Correa is a guy that is maybe at the peak of his career right now. He bowls leg spin and he got a lot of wickets in the trial games, but he's really known primarily as a batsman in the middle order. He did top the 4-day charts. Was it 2018? He did top the charts at one point. Was on the verge of a test selection. So I think he is a guy that in the middle there can do it as an all-rounder. I think he's a guy that they will depend on actually to be consistent in the season.
It's it's really interesting because as we did with the Barbados preview yesterday, sorry, there will be players who have starred before for the Red Force who aren't there because they'll be with West Indies on white ball duty. So Darren Bravo, of course, is with West Indies. Akeal Hosein is with West Indies. Obviously, Pollard and that lot wouldn't play. But I want to focus on one name, Santoki, because Akeal Hosein's not there. And it's quite interesting, Akeal, because we've seen him blow up in white ball cricket for West Indies. He's now our go-to spinner, in essence. In the last year, he's established himself. But the last time he actually played red ball cricket, 2 years ago, Akeal was tearing it up in red ball cricket as well. It's really interesting, Santoki, if we'll ever even see him. Like, he's going to get pigeonholed, I reckon, as a white ball bowler, but it's actually tore it up on the red ball scene before. And I know he's not there, Santoki, but what do you see for someone like an Akeal?
Boy, I don't know what we calling this now. We're calling it Bandon King syndrome or something. It's sort of like if you play white ball cricket, it's sort of hard to kind of get the pathway back into red ball cricket. It's basically physically impossible to sort of play domestic cricket and play internationally at white ball level. But I think it's going to be tough for Akeal because we've got left armers in, Warwickon and Versami Pamor, who obviously have shown their test credentials. So it's not as a case of where they can just suddenly fast track him into the test side. He'll need to play domestic games. For me, I think the big thing will be with Cricket West Indies announcing the rest of the season will take place in May. If Akeal doesn't get an IPL deal, for instance, see him play those last 3 rounds and then go from there, because I think the fact that he can bat, obviously, Dino's posted on his own social media channels Akeal scoring a century at first class level. If he can bat, we've seen Cricket West Indies selectors often go for spinners who can bat as well. So I think that could give him an advantage against the likes of Warwickon or Pamor. But at the end of the day, he has to play domestic cricket. So it's whether he can fit that into his schedule, with white ball cricket obviously being a priority for the moment.
Yeah, most definitely. And in fact, Dino, come in on that before I ask you something.
Yeah, but before he, it begs the question of, but just continuing the point of, let's say he had played in the trial games, but he didn't play in the 4-day season. Is that enough for him to merit selection? Or he plays one game in the 4-day season. Is that enough to merit a test selection? We'd love to have him in the team. Obviously, he's not available. We have Kari Pierre, who some would say they maybe have swap places where it's usually Hussein here and Pierre in the white ball. So for in terms of a Trinidad perspective, it's not that bad. We still have a proper left-arm spinner in the team, but it just seems that maybe they swapped, and I would love to see him back. I imagine that Akeal would want to play as well if he's available, and so I would even imagine Puran. The question might be Lewis. That might be the question.
Well, I've heard on the grapevine that Evan Lewis has actually been training with the Red Force. I don't know if you can or can't confirm that, Dino, but I've heard on the grapevine that he's at least been training and getting his work in. But
let me just say that on Marshall, with the Red Force, in terms of their training, we had no domestic, so we had a squad. They had a squad of 40, which would have been included some of the under-19 guys from this World Cup and the previous couple of World Cups. So we had the best 40 guys that we could have in Trinidad to pick this squad. So that's the only thing that was happening in terms of training in Trinidad. So if Evan has to train in any perspective, he has to go with the national team and train. Does that mean he's in training to make the 4-day team, or is he just, just having training with the pros?
Why are you trying to crush my dreams, man? just let me believe he might be training to play some red ball cricket. But, Dino, the actual question I was going to ask you, though, and Santoki, you might want to come in on this as well. Let's talk on Solozano, because this is actually a really intriguing issue here. So Jeremy got the pick. Lots of, I wouldn't say consternation over it. I don't think that was the prevailing feeling. in the Caribbean. I think more the feeling was, wow, is this what West Indies has come to, that we're picking a guy with an average of 24 based on potential, right? Then he got the knock in his head, didn't play in Sri Lanka. Now, Santoki, at the time, you said, and I kind of agreed, in fact, I agreed with you that, well, he has to go and play against England because he got picked to make a test debut. But that was before we knew the selectors were going to get sacked or asked to, or removed, we should say, right? That sacked is the wrong word. That's harsh, removed. And technically, Santoki and Dino, there's an argument to say Solozano is under pressure to have to make runs in these two games because Haynes and Sarwan, and by default Phil, don't technically have to pick him now because there's new selectors. They could just say, well, whoever makes the most runs in these two matches as an opener, you're just playing against England. Where do you two stand on that?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think you've hit the nail on the head. We sort of said there was obviously some sort of moral obligation. If he suffered a concussion, you'd have to still play him when he's fit because he'd earned that merit. But like you said, now with new selectors, they can sort of cover their tracks by saying it's a new regime. They want to select new players. I think at the moment, whereas before we said Solozano has to play, he's the default option. I think, like you said, Michelle, it's sort of swung slightly now towards it's still his position. I think it's still his. But he has to bat. He has to score runs. It's his to lose at the moment. So his place isn't guaranteed in the England squad. So for me, if the England test was tomorrow, Solozano would play. But with these matches coming up, he now needs to score. He needs to put up big scores to maintain that place because I don't see, for instance, if he gets 4 low scores in these 2 matches, I don't see how you can justify him getting a place ahead of, I don't know, say like a Chanderpaul for Guyana scores big ones, for instance. I don't know how he would justify his place. So it'd be interesting to see what the selectors sort of say and sort of where it goes from there. But as you said, it's up to him to prove himself in these 2 matches now.
Dino?
Yeah, I would just continue the same thought. I mean, his selection in the first place, you examined it here, we examined it here in the first place. There were other names thrown about. What happens if Chanderpaul makes 100? And under 50, what happens if Mosley does the same thing? What happens if Keegan Simmons puts his hand up? In this little period now, it's got to be on the minds of the selectors. Yes, they're going to say, okay, that's recency bias, right? But I mean, this is what we're working with. This is what we have available right now. So yeah, it will be interesting to see. Definitely, I would say yes, there is a question mark there over his name. As a sure pick, for sure, it's a question mark.
What's even more interesting, Santoki, is Jaden Seals is about to play his second first-class game ever after already playing for West Indies. Like, this is utterly bizarre.
This will be his first ever domestic first-class game, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, first ever. Why am I saying second ever? Because it would have been...
His first one was that game in... like Mount Moongi in New Zealand or whatever, the 4-day game, warm-up game.
Right. Yeah. So actually his first actual game for Trinidad, having already debuted and started, only in the Caribbean, can you debut and start Indies and then go and play for your actual national team?
I mean, the way he bowled against Pakistan, I'm expecting Jaden Seals to cause problems at a regional level in these 2 games straight away. So he's obviously going to be someone to look out for. One thing I want to sort of touch on, Dino, is Imran Khan's obviously the captain. You spoke to him today. We're going to add that video to the end of this, so everyone stay tuned and you can hear what he said. And Josh De Silva, interesting enough, is vice captain. Do you think those are sort of did any of those catch you by surprise, or are those kind of the 2 guys you think are right to lead the team at the moment?
Yeah. Just looking at that team, I think those are the guys. I mean, maybe you would say Jason Mohammed, former West Indies captain, would have been maybe in that mix. Maybe he wants to focus on the batting, but I can't see anyone other than those 2. Imran has been there really, like I say, a veteran of it in this cricket, so he knows what it's about. De Silva as vice captain is perfect because you have the wicket keeper and the guy learning on the job, the guy at the test level. It's a perfect situation for them to work together, and it leads me into saying the missing name there, which is Dinesh Ramdin.
Yeah, talk on that. So that big omission.
So I saw when I looked through the scores, Ramdin had an 81 and then a 57 during these scores. So he was there. I mean, had he been available, I imagine he would have been selected. My understanding is that he's not available. There's not anything else that I've been told on that other than he's not available for selection. So who knows when De Silva goes forward into the test team? Who knows if Ramdin is the guy coming back into the team? Because right now we don't see any backup keeper there in that team. It would have to be a guy like maybe Simmons or Solozano. The only guys who don't bowl on that team, by the way, is that's the only option we have. So and just to mention a shout out to Amir Jangu over in another franchise. That's one of our wicket keepers. So I would imagine that Ramdin is just saying, look, give them. This is me just guessing. I'm just saying maybe Ramdin is saying, let Silva have it, and when he goes off, I come in. That's an assumption on my part.
Before Mash comes in, also big up Imran Khan, because he was in that Trinidad squad way back in 2005 when they last won the title. So big up that longevity from Imran Khan.
You know what? And as Santoki alluded to, Dino, obviously, we're going to play the video that Dino, brief interview that Dino did with Imran. And let's big up Imran, though. Let's really big him up, because at the end of the day, it is unfathomable that Imran Khan, he's nearly 38 years old, has 423 domestic first-class wickets. Let me see his average. At an average of 23, never played for West Indies. That makes little to no. When you consider, Santoki, all the different types of spinners that have had a go, when you also consider that in terms of leg spin, it's not like we're being blessed, and he never got a go, not even a one go, not even a one game to get carted all over the place. He just never got a go. So we have to put respect and give flowers to Imran Khan for his longevity in the game, Santoki.
Yeah, 100%, and he sort of forms a long line with Nikita Miller, and well, at least Nikita Miller got one game, but we keep talking about Pamor not getting his flowers, not getting his chances, opportunities. So Imran Khan, like you said, underrated bowler in the region, consistently year after year been getting the wickets, putting in the work. Never had a West Indies cap, obviously never will at this point, due to his age. So yeah, definitely a regional stalwart who sort of is definitely underrated.
Dino?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree, but I would look to the future and say, he's the captain of the Red Force now, and he can be a guy that can be influential in getting us another generation of leg spinners. If there's anyone that knows how to win games as a leg spinner in the Caribbean, it's this guy, right? He would know how to get a team out, no matter who the batsman is. Even without the test experience, bowling on these grounds, I know he has he's been part of the WIA teams, So that experience will not go wanting, and I think that has to come into play with Imran in the future. Right now, I think he genuinely has a shot with this team. You might want to. I don't want to predict it because this team the other teams are so strong. The competition is going to be good, and there's been a hiatus, so we are not sure what stage everyone is at. I don't want to say that Red Force are favorites or anything like that, but I do expect them to compete for the title. With this team, that's what I'll say.
So wait, everyone's just saying their team's going to compete for the title, with two videos so far. Akeal said Barbados are in the top two. Dino's saying Trinidad are in the top two. We ain't even got to Guyana yet.
You know what? I think everyone's going to back their island, man. We've seen in the West Indies. So we're going to ask you, Dino. We know from your point of view, Trinidad are winning it. But if you had to pick a team that's going to come second, who are you picking in the region?
I wouldn't say Trinidad are winning it. Actually, if I had to say it, I would say Trinidad would come second. If I had to choose something, I'd say Trinidad second. But I think the team that can make the most runs wins this tournament, and I think that historically Guyana have shown that they can score runs everywhere in the Caribbean. And if they get a flat track, they'd score the most runs. But I do believe Trinidad have it in them as well, but I do believe in this tournament it's going to be about runs because the bowlers are there. It's who can work on these surfaces. Yeah,
big up Dino for calling a ceasefire. I've never heard a Trini man is going to win something.
You see, difference.
But as alluded to, Dino, we were fortunate enough that you were able to get some minutes with the captain of the Red Force, Imran Khan, today. So everyone who's watching this, don't click off yet. The final 5 minutes or so of this will feature Dino's interview with Imran Khan.
Really a first-class veteran. He's had several records for Trinidad and Tobago, and this year he will be leading the boys out in this 4-day first class season. So Imran, a pleasure. I know you're a busy guy. In fact, you're probably on your way to practice again today. But thanks for taking the time just to answer a few questions with us. I mean, we saw the team has been announced. Just get straight into it with the team. I know you guys, we haven't had a domestic season for about 2 years now in Trinidad, but you guys have been having practice matches or trial matches since August of last year, and the matches have kept coming. So how has the preparation been coming into this tournament?
Yeah, firstly, let me say thanks for having me as well. It's always a pleasure to talk with you all. I think the training has been good. From probably August, we had a good few months with physical work, a couple of practice games as well. And so, the team is gelled in, and which is good. That's where you want going into a tournament. Some guys perform pretty well, and that's what you want as well. Confident players going into a short tournament. You play 2 games now, and then later down you play 3 other games. So you always want to start good in these kind of tournaments. So I think giving players opportunities is always it's always good, but you have to take the opportunity as well, which is important.
Oh, definitely. And during these practice games now, leading up to the tournament, you would have played at the Brian Lara Stadium, Gilbert Park, at the Old Queen's Park Oval. So you would have played at different types of venues. Of course, you know what Brian Lara offers. Will that affect your selection of the team or the makeup of the final 11 going into the match?
I don't think it will affect anything. I think we have a really balanced team, with our bowling attack is, with the test players available, it's always a plus with these guys in the team, our fast bowling is covered, our spinners are covered, and our batting as well. So I don't think the surface will play, a much part of it. We don't know what we get at Brian Lara at this point, but I think we'll be up for it, whatever conditions we get there.
Yeah. And you had a group of around 40 guys, because we haven't had domestic cricket in Trinidad. We're looking forward to it starting now. We've seen the fixtures around, and 40 guys. We expect some guys now from this Red Force team to obviously go on to the test team. Some for sure, maybe some more might put their hand up. But with that group of 40, with guys leaving the team eventually, do you see any problems with guys coming in, or that lack of domestic season really playing a hand, or how will that be looking forward?
I think, it will have opportunity for guys to come in, long these players, have West Indies duty, and it's always good for younger players to step up and, grab the opportunity and make use of it. I think that's really important, to build back China cricket, especially with these youngsters, taking the opportunity. So I think if these guys do go off to West Indies cricket, they'll have a couple guys probably in line to fulfill their places, and also they have to wait and see long the availability of these guys.
Some big names that not on the team, they ask questions will be asked about where is Dinesh Ramdin, and does Nicholas Puran interested? Has he been part of that 40? Just on those 2 guys, it's a bit surprising. So we have to ask about those names.
Disappointing that he's not part of the setup, but once they're available, I think they will be available. I think they will want to be available when they can. So I think it's always a plus to have these guys around in your team as well, so they'll be happy to have them long as they're available, I think.
Yeah, and a really good team on paper. There's nothing really here that raises any red flags. In fact, it looks like a very good balanced team of experience and youth. And like you said, all of the departments covered. Just one last thing, in between the 4-day tournament here in Trinidad, our domestic season will kick off. Do you think that guys have an opportunity in our domestic season to put their hand up?
Yeah, of course. I think that's really important for these guys. Guys who in trials, and even other guys who want to get into the setup, have a good domestic season, and you get called for trials, you perform at trials, and opportunities there to play for Trinidad. So we have 2 games now, and then we break for the whole of March, and then the end of April, I think the other 3 games play. So it's that window is open for players to score runs, take wickets, and address the selectors in the domestic tournaments, and it's a good opportunity for guys who really want it as well, and even the guys who in trials, even the guys who play for Trinidad to go back to the club level and dominate as well. Just don't take things for granted. So that's really important. Coming on later on in the tournament as well.
Oh, definitely some key words there. We would love to see those 40 guys dominate the local scene. So we'll be on the lookout for the local scene. But on Wednesday, all eyes will be on Imran Khan leading the boys out at Brian Lara. And we wish you all the best, Imran. Everybody is going to be watching as the cricket resumes here in Trinidad. So all the best to you and the guys. We're coming for Jamaica, right?
Much appreciated.
Well, I didn't like how Dino ended that with "we're coming for Jamaica," but we hope that you enjoyed that episode all the same. Dino and Santoki have departed, but that's been the preview of the Trinidad and Tobago Red Force team. Obviously, this drops tonight, and stay tuned for team number 3, which will be the Guyana Harpy Eagles. We've been the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.